And we are live from my home studio here in North Carolina. You are in for a treat today. Holidays are coming a little early because I'm teaching a full-length 1-hour masterclass on brand archetypes, how to get fluent in your brand so you attract more of the right clients to you on a emotional, subconscious gut level. If we haven't met yet, my name is Kaye Putnam. I'm the psychology-driven brand strategist, and I cannot wait to share this class with you today. We are going to dive straight in. There's a bit of a delay with live streaming, so feel free to ask questions in the chat. Hopefully I will see some of them pop up over on my screen over there. And if I do, I'll answer them right as we're teaching here live. But if you ask a question after the fact, I will be returning back to the comments here in YouTube to answer all of your questions about brand strategy, archetypes, attracting more ideal clients, or any questions that you have. Let's do this thing. The underlying theme that I want to share today is that the world needs you, yes, you, to share more of your genius. You have a unique set of stories, skills, and just talents that if you don't bring that forward to the world, and if you don't have the skills to package that up in a way that people understand what you stand for and that is magnetic to your ideal clients, the world is missing out. So I'm hoping to equip you by the end of this training with some very tangible ways that you can stand in your truth and build a brand that impacts. Hope you can hear me and see me okay. I'm going to be moving quickly. Be sure to grab a sheet of paper or a notebook, phone notes, whatever floats your boat, and play along. I taught a similar class recently for a private paid group, and you're getting it here for free. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback I got was just pages and pages of notes that people took. And I don't want to let my really exciting message go lost. So I'm going to share a little sneak peek here right in the beginning. I'll share more details at the end. But if you have ever thought about joining me in my brand fluency archetype courses, now is the best time to do that. I'm adding an incredible bonus to the course. And like I said, I'll share more of the details at the end. But if you want the shortcut, if you want the deep dive, if you want to skip this free class and dive straight into the course that is specific to your brand archetype, the link is in the description below. We have a unique and new set of bonuses that you will get if you join me now. Let's get into it. All right. Let me know, where are you tuning in from? Where are you watching from? Where in the world are you? I absolutely adore that my audience tends to be so international. My own family lived in Italy for 3 years, and we reach people from Australia to the United States to Europe and everywhere in between. And if you want to attract more clients in a way that feels easy and natural, you are in the right place. But if you're anything like me, maybe you feel like that's easier said than done. You don't know how to connect the dots between where you are now and where you want to go. And this class is going to answer that how. And like I said, at the end of this training, I'm going to be sharing some really exciting brand new news. If you already are a student in one of my brand fluency courses, you are going to get access to this, so don't worry. And if you have been thinking about it, or if you are just an entrepreneur that's working on building a brand that is in alignment with who you truly are, you are going to want to join me. And I cannot wait to meet more of you in the bonus. In today's training, we're going to talk about how to identify your brand archetype, where and how to leverage your brand archetype for maximum results, and then a really special third practice. You are not going to want to miss this one. This is where we're going to dive deep and really put you to work with that sheet of paper or that notebook that you have grabbed. If you haven't, go get it so that you become a magnet and attention for sales. That's me. My brand archetype quiz that has been live since 2013 has been taken over 250,000 times, which blows my mind every time that I say that. It is a tool that has been used by college professors. It's been featured on stages with other people speaking to business conferences, all that. I am so grateful. And I'm going to share a little bit of the backstory about how it came to be and why it's so important to me. It holds a special place in my heart as an entrepreneur, not only because it's impacted so many entrepreneurs like you, but because it was a tool that I needed for myself. I have worked behind the scenes of thousands of brands, both through my online courses and then with a select set of clients. I work one-on-one. And then I also have an incredible, amazing group of smart humans in the Brand Clarity Collective, where we offer ongoing live coaching, brand support, mentorship, etc., that I have had the honor of working with over the years. Mostly I'm just a nerd at heart. I cannot count the number of books that I've read about human psychology, about branding, about business, energy, all of these different things that are the foundation to your business success. Those revenue goals that you're reaching for, that sense of ease or confidence that can feel like it's missing on many days, it can be found in some really powerful tools. And of those thousands of entrepreneurs, it's really exciting to see how applicable this is, because archetypes are connected to human psychology, the people that you're selling to. I get to work with clients in gardening, in business services, in trucking and logistics, in hospitality and tourism and travel, and everything in between. This framework can be applied to any type of business because it is the one that speaks to the decision-making process in your ideal clients' minds. Let me know if any of this sounds familiar. So as you look around your industry, the other copywriters, the other chiropractors, the other designers, the other people who sell something similar to you, you notice themes, you see patterns. Everybody seems to be paying attention to everybody else, and they all start to look the same. This happens especially in like MLM companies. Love you guys, but you can tell that they're learning from a specific person, and then they're all using those same techniques. Nobody is really breaking through the mold, or not very many people. And then this creates a really challenging situation or reality for entrepreneurs, because when your clients feel like they're comparing apples to apples, they don't know how to discern who's better. They don't know your product. They don't know your service as well as you do. It's kind of this trap of the genius, or trap of the wisdom they've accumulated throughout the years. So they feel like they're comparing apples to apples. And the first question that often comes out of their minds or mouths is, okay, how much does this cost? Can I get this cheaper somewhere else? And that price shopping or commodity effect can be hugely detrimental, especially for small businesses, because we don't have massive volume like the Walmarts of the world or the Nikes of the world. We have to be able to carve out our space in the market so that we become a market of one. And maybe you've noticed in your space that a few superstars rise to the top. They seem to get an outsized return for the effort that they put into their business. It seems like it comes easy to them. And if I'm going to be vulnerable for a moment, I spent a lot of time in the early years of my business feeling kind of resentful or judgmental of these people. It's like, why do people like them so much? And no surprise, but that type of energy didn't attract a lot of results for me. I'm actually going to share some of the things that some of these superstars likely do, whether they're doing it consciously or intuitively in their business to rise to the top. Let me know if you've heard this piece of advice. If I had $1 for every time that somebody told me this without filling in the blanks, I would be rich. But the advice to just be yourself is well-meaning, and it's actually accurate. We need to be ourselves. I've already used language like this in the beginning of this class. We want to build a brand that's authentic to you, so it doesn't feel like you're swimming upstream. You want to feel like you're going with the current. But this didn't come easy to me. When I first started in business, I was awkward. I was a person that has always been a high achiever. I've always prided myself on being well-researched. I know the best practices. I've got a degree in marketing with a minor in psychology. And yet, when I started in business for myself, I couldn't figure out how to market myself. I like to say that it's kind of like this circus funhouse mirror effect when we're building a brand, because we look in the mirror and we see this like really wide version of ourselves, or this really tall version of ourselves, or this like wavy, distorted reflection, because it's incredibly hard to see yourself clearly. It's trying to read the outside of the bottle when you're sitting inside of it. And because of this awkwardness, because of this flailing, I was victim to this inner mean girl in my head that was constantly second guessing myself. I was asking myself, or like changing my brand every 3 months, every 6 months, trying to guess what the market wanted me to be. And I was looking to others, the gurus, the superstars that were at the top of my industry, and just trying to model what was successful. And that copycat energy isn't serving you. Even if it's well-intentioned, we can learn skills from other people. We can be inspired by other people. But the place where that gets really potent and just powerful is when we can run that through our own filter of what's actually on brand for me and what is the impact that I ultimately want to make through this business. And when you don't have that filter, that discernment, your audience can get really confused because you're constantly changing focus. You're bringing this kind of like, yeah, I do that too energy to your brand. And the people that we're selling to, entrepreneurs, consumers, whoever your ideal audience is, they're smart. This online industry, thank goodness, is getting more mature. Our customers are getting more wise. The days of just putting up an ugly landing page that had some, urgent language on it and making $1 million has passed. And thank goodness. But that means that the bar is raising for you and I, for people that want to make a positive impact, who have good intentions, need to learn how to package up our business and our work, our offers in a way that speaks our ideal client's language. And when you're not speaking their language, if you aren't fluent in this emotional language, it feels like you're shooting in the dark, and you can end up like me, trying to just guess or like be what I thought that I should be, instead of turning inward and focusing on myself. And this doesn't just work for personal brands. One of my favorite experiences as a brand strategist is standing in front of the ice cream aisle in the grocery store. Now, I'm lactose intolerant, so this is an irrational love for sure. But when you think about vanilla ice cream, the core ingredients are the same, the offer's the same. You have the cream, the sugar, the milk, and a freezing process, right? Maybe there's different qualities of ingredients, but the basic ingredients are the same. And as an average consumer, we might know what we like, but making a discernment between who has higher quality Madagascar vanilla beans isn't going to be something that I can taste off the top of my head. And ice cream companies implement what I'm about to teach you in this class really well. So even though their product is, by all intents and purposes, exactly the same as the one that's sitting right next to them, they have incorporated the emotional language of brand building through the use of brand archetypes in their packaging, in their messaging, in their positioning. And we get wildly different impressions of these different brands, even though the product is so similar. We have Haagen-Dazs with its kind of like luxurious, almost like sultry indulgence, but like kind of an elevated indulgence. And then kind of right next door and similar is Magnum, but it's kind of almost like this feral sexiness in their ice cream. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have brands like Halo Top, which offers very clean, natural ingredients, low calories for a pint of ice cream. And we also have Ben and Jerry's, which have this kind of like political, entertaining irreverence. And depending on what emotional lever you're trying to pull in that moment and which one speaks to you most is going to be the ice cream that you grab, kind of regardless of price. We think that we're making logical decisions, but it's not as clear cut as that. Otherwise, we would all never pay for information because information is abundant and free online. And we would always, without fail, choose the cheapest option. And our own experience can tell us that we just don't. We value quality, we value emotion, we value the values that the brand stands for. And you're in good company here in this masterclass, because what I'm sharing with you today is used by the biggest brands in the world, the ones with multi-million-dollar ad budgets and branding budgets, and also multi-million-dollar brand valuations on their balance sheets. The Old Spices, Nikes, Coca-Cola, IKEA, and so forth. My entire mission over the last decade has been to take what these big brands have been using for a really long time and help small business owners implement this knowledge so they can get that same outsized return for the energy that they're putting into their brand. Before now, there wasn't a lot of how-to information on this. It was saved for the hallowed creative corridors of the creative agencies that we see on Mad Men. And it is truly like my purpose and my joy to equip entrepreneurs like you with this knowledge. And yes, we are talking about brand archetypes. Brand archetypes, maybe you've been like learning about them for a while. Maybe this is your first introduction to them. Regardless of which end of that spectrum that you're on, it's always worth taking a deeper look, because archetypes aren't just these cliched representations. They're connected to universal human values, which connects your brand when you implement it and when you leverage it to humans on this gut, subconscious, universal level. They're connected to motivations and fears, to values, to personality traits. Our brains are pattern recognition machines. Our cognitive process saves energy by recognizing like things and by tapping into things that our brain naturally recognizes. The psychologist Jung calls this the collective unconscious. You can create this shortcut of understanding between your brand and your client. All of this matters because it's not even just how you are packaging things up. It's the energetic influence that we bring to our brands. It's the boldness when we step into an expression that's in alignment with who we truly are. It becomes much easier to make brand decisions when we have this filter. It is a magnetic pull. I like to kind of imagine having two magnets with the different polarities on either end. When you're not speaking the right language, it's like you have the two pluses lined up and they don't want to come together. But when you switch this and you switch from a purely logic-based argument and brand, we do this better. We have better customer service. We deliver faster. We use better quality ingredients. And we implement these emotional levers into our brand. It's like turning the magnet around and things just stick together. They just work better. Archetypes help us shorten the know, like, and trust factor, because when there isn't a cognitive dissonance between who you say that you are and how that you're acting in every single touch point of your brand, people naturally trust you more. And to bring this into a more everyday example, maybe you've had a friend, say back in grade school years, that seemed to change who they were based on the situation that they were in. Now that I've had like the wisdom of being an adult, now that I'm in my late 30s and time to self-reflect and step into the human that I am, I realized this was me. I was a different person. I was a different Kaye, whether I was on the math counts bus or when I was the captain of my cross-country team at my small high school, or when I was with my church friends, or when I was with my skiing friends. I kept trying to shape and mold, guessing what people would like. And people can sense that. People can just like naturally feel something isn't right, something isn't adding up, and they will avoid you or tend to not pick you over other options. It's our friends that are unapologetically who they are. They are the ones who are willing to be weird. In my current friend group, we wear weird as a badge of honor. We love to compliment each other on how weird we are because that's what we love as humans. We love the quirkiness and the unexpected elements and facets of the people that we build relationships with. And then also when you're in alignment with who you are, you have this beautiful, again, it's magnetic. The people who don't resonate with your core values and your personality are going to be repelled. And that's a good thing because especially as a small business owner, we don't want to work with everybody. That can be a major energetic drain on your business. We want to work with the people who really value us and who understand what we stand for right from the get-go. And hallelujah, knowing what your archetype is can help reduce the amount of decisions that you have to make in your brand because decision fatigue is real. If we're constantly starting from scratch, trying to figure out who the heck we are and how to be that in the world, it's exhausting. But when we have a head start and we can stay in our own lane, it becomes less tiring. So here are the 12 brand archetypes. And as I mentioned when we first started, our first task is to figure out which ones are uniquely ours. And this can pose a few interesting challenges. One, because we are multifaceted human beings. We have aspects of all 12 of these archetypes in us. But when we're building a brand, one of the key elements or levers that make it compelling is when people can just get us. And for this reason, it really helps to present a unified, clear, and consistent message to the market instead of trying to dance all over the spectrum. And to do this, I generally recommend for my students and for my clients that we focus on 2 archetypes. So our goal is to choose a primary and a secondary archetype. And I'm going to give you a few pro tips. One of them is that you have veto power. Like I mentioned, I have a brand quiz on my website that can point you in the direction of your top archetype. And that's a fantastic place to start. But I do recommend that you spend some time exploring the other archetypes. Trust your intuition. We can't make these emotional decisions by relying on a pro and cons list or a purely logic-based decision-making process. So trust which one feels like you. And again, we're choosing 2 so that we can present a unified, clear, and compelling message to the market. My 2 happen to be the Magician, which is very visionary, future-focused, who inspires change. You've already heard it in my language. I encourage you to find your inner power, your inner truth, so that you can make an impact that you want to make in the world. Magicians sometimes also have really interesting tools or frameworks or protocols that they bring to the market. Archetypes are mine. And my secondary archetype is the Sage. I've been a lifelong learner. I love to learn to my detriment sometimes. This is what happens when we're really leaning into our strengths. Sometimes they present as weaknesses because we're so over-indexed for them. But Sage, when it's at its best, is seeking truth, universal truth. So it's looking for the undisputable path forward, the most strategic, best information possible, and it's sharing it with others, as I'm doing here today. But maybe you're the caregiver. The caregiver is our non-judgmental mother energy, which doesn't mean that you have to be a woman to be a caregiver. One of my favorite clients is this 6'5" former pro baseball player who truly embodies the caregiver energy and archetype, he used the example of he wanted to feel like a warm cabin, like a log cabin with a roaring fireplace in the middle of winter. And that energy is the caregiver archetype. Maybe you're the creator, so you're the natural inventor. You are creating newness or art in some form in the world, even if that art is through your accounting. Or perhaps you are the entertainer. The entertainer helps us find a break, both from the mundane and the boring in everyday life, and also from the heavy and the overwhelming parts of life. And gosh, do we need that these days, don't we? Explore is all about getting out of our comfort zones, shedding what society says that we should do, have to do, and going in our own path to find fulfillment. Girl or guy next door, sometimes also called the everyman, is the community builder. It creates a sense of belonging. Hero is all about taking action, even when it's hard, towards a noble purpose. Innocent helps us get back to true and natural goodness. It is the archetype of joy and optimism. Lover is all about following your heart instead of your head. We talked about magician. Maverick recognizes what is not working in the world anymore and works to break down those systems to make room for something new. Royal is all about high standards. We see this in a lot of our luxury brands, and they're the metaphorical king or queen of their industry. And we talked about sage as well. So trust your gut. You have veto power, use your intuition, and do a bit of research, but then ultimately trust your decision. The beautiful thing about the archetypes is they give us tangible ideas about how we can show up. Because it's connected to these themes and patterns, there's countless characters and movie characters and people in our lives and celebrities and other brands, especially in very divergent industries from the one that you're in, that embody this archetype already. So we can broaden our horizon of inspiration and make very tangible decisions about what should my color palette be. We know that color influences the psychology and the perception because it's attached to symbolism. So if you're using colors that feel like a walk in the forest, it is going to feel very natural, down to earth, so on. If you're using colors that feel like the northern lights in a night sky, like I do in my brand, it's going to feel magical. So touch point by touch point, piece by piece, building our brand, we can use our archetypes to help inform every single one of those decisions. And the beautiful thing about this is you're not chasing trends. You're not just doing what's popular in any given moment. I was having a conversation yesterday with a marketing director at an agency, and we were laughing about how in the earlier 2000s, my eye's itchy, sorry guys. In the earlier 2000s, it seems like everybody was hopping on this hipster movement where every logo was this circular badge that had two words and kind of like rugged, rustic type of feel. And yes, maybe that was the right move for some of those brands, but I would wager to guess that most of them aren't this like guy next door, hipster, rugged, organic brand, and they should have ignored that trend altogether. And there was a Harvard study that shared that up to 95% of our decisions are made on an emotional level. So if you aren't speaking this language, it's almost like you're speaking Greek and your clients are speaking Russian. You're not going to understand each other as well as you can. So after you identify what your top two archetypes are, then you start to translate that into the themes that run throughout your entire business. And I want to share really quickly for each of the 12 archetypes, this is the feeling that we want to create in our brands. So every time you're sitting down to make a brand decision, and I have a shortcut for doing this, by the way, you don't have to come up with all of this on your own. I'm going to share a little bit more about that at the end of this training. But if you do want to take the longer route and do more of this on your own, as you read your emotional lever, so for if you're a caregiver brand, people want to be taken care of. So how can you embody that emotion in your tone of voice, in the clothes that you wear, in the video backdrop behind you, in your website colors and fonts? What feels warm and welcoming? And continue to ask yourself that question. Come back to this emotional cue. How can I take care of my clients or customers better, more often, and at every opportunity? If you're the creator, people want to be inspired. How are you going to inspire more people? Entertainer, people want to enjoy life right now, in this instant, not next year, not later. And they really don't want to think about their taxes. They want to enjoy life. Explorer, people want to experience more from life. They want to live vicariously through you or through the ideas that you share, through new experiences. The innocent, people want to simplify. They want to get back to what's natural and good. Girl or guy next door, people want to belong. They want to feel like they're part of a community. They want to be accepted. Hero, people want to reach a goal. Lover, people want to feel passion. With the magician, people want to change. How can you help them change? In little ways, in big ways, in weird ways. For the maverick brands, people want to take back their power. And for royal, people want significance. They want to feel like they're getting the best, choosing the best, and being the best. Sage, people want wisdom. They want the truth. And the kind of underlying emotional cue there is that they want security. They want to know what's best. Again, if you haven't taken the quiz on my website, that's a fantastic place to start. It'll point you towards your top archetype. It'll give you links to the other 11 so that you can explore. So step 1, choose your primary and your secondary archetype. And then next, we start to translate that. So we began that work already when we were doing that bit of lateral thinking exercise there. And let's talk about where your archetype shows up. But before we do that, I want to lay out 2 frameworks. They are going to look relatively complicated on the screen. So if it doesn't click right away, I'll come back to this part of the section. But I wanted to create a lay of the land first before we dive into the tactics. Let's talk strategy first, then move into tactics. The way that brands interact with humans, there are 2 levels to it. There's what's beneath the surface, and then there's what we can see. People over-focus on what we can see. So we can see the colors, the fonts, the logos. So they think that that's all that what the brand is. But in truth, what's happening beneath the surface is what should inform and inspire all of those decisions. And by cluing into that primary emotional lever of your brand archetype, that helps you make more of the outward-facing decisions. And then on the human side, humans are on this natural quest to achieve their goals and to realize some vision. And the way that they decide what's important to them is through their sense of identity. And their identity forms what they need and desire in the market. And then these 2 meet because your brand is now speaking directly to those emotional needs. It's reinforcing the identity that your people desire to have or already perceive themselves to have. And this is what creates results. And when it comes to the brand archetypes, we do this, we make that connection, we overlap those 2 Venn diagrams by leaning into these key pieces. Now, you could organize the archetypes, the 12 archetypes, and relate them to each other in different ways. This is just one way of understanding them. We can look at them as 4 different quadrants. This can help simplify our decision-making process. So if you're in the independence quadrant with your top archetype, you're helping people go their own way. If you're in the mastery, you're helping people leave a mark. If you're in the belonging quadrant, you're helping people connect to others and you're also connecting to them as a brand. And then if you're in the stability quadrant, your brand is helping people create stability, create a world that they want to live in. So that's the strategy element. That's what we're trying to do. And again, I'm going to challenge you. There's ways that I can give you the answers. I'm going to give you more answers here in just a second. But if you understand what's happening beneath the surface on that invisible layer, then you will be empowered to make more decisions for your brand on your behalf. It gives you clarity. So if you're helping people go in their own way, if you're the explorer brand archetype, what inspires you in your life to go your own way? Or what's a metaphor for going your own way? It could be a uncharted forest path. It could be seafaring like we see in Moana, the Disney movie for kids that I absolutely love. What else inspires you to go in your own path? And then once you have that inspiration, this is the tactics. This is where we use our archetypes to bring it forward and to communicate it to the market. We pick our colors, we pick our fonts. You choose the setting, the style, and the emotion, the framing for your brand portraits or your stock images if you're leveraging them for your brand. We can communicate our archetype through the pattern and the texture that we use in our business. Personal style through the icons that you pick. You'll notice, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but throughout my brand, I'll often lean towards icons that feel magical. Things like stars, shooting stars, night sky, literal magician's wands. My personal style, as an example, I love to wear hats, and it's also not a coincidence because it feels kind of magician-esque to me. You can communicate it through your logo style. The rest of your graphics. So how are you using straight lines? Are you using circles or waves? Are you using hand-drawn elements? All of that can be informed by which archetype that you have. Video set, the names of your products. One of the superpowers of a magician brand is their power of naming, and I love to share this power with every one of you, no matter what your archetype is, because when you become known for a system or a proprietary process, people view that as different, special, and unique to you, as it is. And this can be a really powerful way to differentiate your brand from somebody else that's offering a similar service or product. Down to the word choice. What words do you say? What words do you avoid? The stories that you tell, the metaphors, how you invite people into your offers, and so on and so forth. So as you look through this list, where are you falling short? Is all of it a mess? Just a hodgepodge Frankenstein brand mess? Do you have some of these that feel like they're already in alignment with your archetype? Because chances are, intuitively, you probably have been doing some of this yourself. We all have the opportunity to do it a little bit better and better and better over time, but maybe you have some of this kind of dialed in. So what is your best next opportunity to implement more emotion into your brand? All right, we've gotten to my favorite exercise of the training. Get out your piece of paper, if you will, because one roadblock that I noticed with a lot of my students was sometimes even when we get to brand clarity, there's still something that holds us back. I mentioned my inner mean girl, and she can be a real bee. Like, I am a fairly confident person, but every once in a while I can still get stuck in this trap, and I used to get stuck in it all of the time, where I felt massive imposter syndrome. I didn't feel like I was worthy of showing up and sharing this information. Even though I know it helped me, and even though I know it helped my clients, I still felt reserved about it. So this exercise can help us break through some of those mental blocks so that you get out of your own way and actually start using what I'm teaching you. And another beautiful thing about our archetypes is we can borrow some of this swagger, this confidence from the archetypes themselves, because they stand for strengths, almost like a human has strengths, a superhero has strengths. We can use it as inspiration when we're crafting this exercise if you want, or even if not, if you haven't done a ton of research and you don't know all of the intricacies of your archetype yet, no worries, you can still do this perfectly. And this is one of my favorite things that I hear from people who have taken the quiz or from my students. They tell me that it doesn't just impact their business. It doesn't just help them sell more, which is great. We want to sell more if we're building a business, but it helps them be more of themselves, both in their real life and in their business. And some of the things that they thought might have been weaknesses before, things that they were trying to hide, when they tapped into their archetypes, they realized it was actually something to be celebrated. I had a client long time ago, one of my first clients ever. She was a female videographer. And for the longest time, because she was in a very male-dominated market, she thought of her emotionality, like her heart for her clients, as a weakness. And she tried to be more like the dudes in her industry, and it wasn't working. It wasn't until she leaned into her lover archetype of really telling the emotional stories behind the clients that she worked with that she started to grow and flourish, because she wasn't trying to hide anymore. So sometimes what we think of as weaknesses are actually our strengths. And this is our brand confidence exercise. And for as many lines as you have, we want to fill in as many things as possible. And what we're going to do here is I want you to list all of the reasons. Silly, truthful, all should be truthful, but silly, like tangible, emotional, that somebody would be crazy bananas not to hire you. What are all of your skills, your talents, your strengths, and everything that makes you you? Why are your clients gosh darn lucky to work with you? And if this feels stretchy, if it doesn't feel doable, if you're running into that inner mean girl or mean guy, another perspective that you can take as you write this list is assume the identity of somebody who loves you. Maybe that's your parents. Maybe it's your partner. Maybe it's a friend who's just your ride or die. Maybe it's God or spirit or universe. What makes you amazing? And you can filter your ideas through that person if you can't do that yourself. And to make this more concrete, I hope you're busy writing down over there, but I'd love to share my list, the first part of my list, as an inspiration. So my intuition is mad accurate with one-on-one clients. I've been known to literally put pictures on a mood board of a coffee shop that my client frequents every single week, just intuitively, because I felt like it felt like him. And I have hundreds of examples like that. I see the big picture and other people get lost in the details. I've been studying branding and human psychology for over 15 years. My degree is in marketing and psychology. Started my first business at 16. I've read hundreds of books on business, branding, psychology. I've proven to myself that I can do hard things. Skied in the Junior Olympics. We trekked to Everest Base Camp, my husband, myself, sister-in-law, and cousin in 2019. And other examples, I'm a master of change and putting myself out of my comfort zone. My husband was actually in the military for 11 years, which meant that we moved every 2 years. So we lived in Italy, we've lived in Hawaii, we've lived in Missouri, middle of nowhere, Tennessee, and now in North Carolina. And just keep going. And the fun thing, as you're reading through your list, I'm sure you're going to start to see some of those themes from your archetypes. So as I look at mine, I notice that my intuition being spot on, and then also this capacity for change and for rapid transformation, both of those things are very in tune with the magician archetype. Change, transformation are common themes there. And then I also see themes of the sage. So I have been studying this topic, or this branding and psychology, and why humans make the decisions that they make for a decade and a half, and actually longer if we're going back to that first business at 16. I've read hundreds of books and so on. I have a degree, and we get to celebrate this. Another piece that I love to do is collect all of the kind words, and I highly recommend that you do this yourself. So any screenshots, any kind emails, any gushing voice notes that your clients leave you about the impact that you've had, any reviews that people leave if you're more of a product-based business, collect them all in one place, call them your kind words folder or create a new name for them, and return to both the list that you self-generated and the proof points from other people that you collect over time if ever you're starting to doubt yourself, if ever you're starting to feel like maybe you shouldn't be building this brand or putting yourself out in the world. Because this is so important, I actually have a whole bonus module inside of the brand fluency courses. It's called Create, CREATE, your mindset. Each of the letters in Create stand for a different exercise that you can do to improve your business confidence as you're bringing your brand to the world. The 2 exercises that I shared are from the E, which is gathering evidence of your value. At the end of the day, branding is the art of becoming unforgettable. And the way that memory works, the way that our brain works, is we remember emotion. So if you want to bring more of your genius to the world so you can make the impact that you want to make, this is the route. This is the how-to. Build this into your brand and start to see things working better. If we recap our free class today, by the way, stick with me. Like I said, I have some exciting announcements, but let's recap the free portion, the masterclass portion here. We have identified your archetype using your intuition. We reviewed each of the 12, including what they're known for, and then the emotional lever that you pull with your clients. And then we want to translate that into all of your different brand touch points. And then we need to make sure that we're not getting in our own way and we're standing in confidence when we're bringing it to the world. And if you want the shortcut to doing all of this and to getting just a treasure trove, a wide library of ideas of how to bring your archetype into all of those touch points that we talked about earlier, I have a different archetype course for each of the 12 archetypes that do exactly this. And you learn about your type. I actually don't share the second lesson publicly, but there's different subtypes. There's different embodiments of each of the archetypes. So even when you know that you're the magician archetype, there's different ways that the magician archetype shows up. So knowing what your subtype is can give you even more clarity in how you are making decisions. We talk about your worldview, aka your point of view statements. These are the values-based marketing messages that you can bring to the market, and it creates the heck yes, me too, I believe that too effect on the market so that the right people are being drawn into you. And then we also talk about your arch nemesis as a brand. Every brand needs to have a dragon, a villain. And when you leave that out, you're missing this emotional edge, this compelling, I don't want to say villain again, but this idea for all of us to band together and throw rocks at. So just as an example of this, the Maverick hates the phrase, well, that's how it's always been done. We're not going to change. They also hate when groups of people are treated unfairly, like marginalized, ignored, systematically discredited in some way. They really hate injustice. So what is that for you? And there's a deep dive for your specific archetype. We also have examples from big brands. This is incredible when we're making decisions because we don't have to look at everybody in our industry and look at like a carbon copy of them anymore. We can pull from inspiration from incredible brands that have made a mark on culture, on the psyches of the world, and do things not copying them, but pulling in themes or ideas from those wider inspirations to bring it to your brand. And then also, because we want to make this human connection, it can be helpful to look at people, celebrities, characters that also embody your archetype as inspiration. So like, what would your brand sound like if you sounded like Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean movie series? It would sound completely different than probably what you sound like right now. So we can use actual people, fictional or real, as inspiration for our brand voice and even for our personal style and things like that. Then we dig into the more nuts and bolts. So like, what are the voice and words that you use that are on archetype? What stories should you specifically tell? Again, the content of a story can remain the same. We can have the basic story structure of, I was working a job that I didn't like, so I left it and now I'm running my own business. And you can shape that in 12 highly unique ways. The explorer left their job because they felt trapped. The royal left their job because they felt like they hated answering to somebody else. They felt insignificant and undervalued. The magician felt like they weren't tapping into their true purpose, that they were stifling their true impact in the world, and so on and so forth. You can shape the stories that you're telling through the lens of the archetypes to tell a more unique and more aligned story with your brand. And then we also have design decisions. So again, colors, fonts, image style, textures, patterns, symbolism. How is all of this coming to life? I give you tons of examples. Not all of them are going to resonate with you, but you have it all done for you so that you can just pick and choose what you like and how you're going to bring that into your brand. Themes and metaphors that you can use in your teaching, in your speaking, in your writing, any communication. For example, I have a framework that I call the brand gravity framework. It's more, once you know what your brand is and you're trying to market it, get it out in the world, it's really about bringing people into your gravitational pull. It's not a mistake that this is a space-oriented metaphor that I use because I leverage my archetype to help come up with it. And then also, how are you actually making decisions in your business? How are you treating your clients? What are your policies and strategic paths that you're taking in your business? And are they in alignment with your archetype? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. We have since added just like hundreds of more examples to build out the depth of bench in terms of all of the different ideas that you are getting. I cannot stress and I cannot communicate how much time, effort, money went into developing these courses. Even the first time that I created them, it was hundreds of hours, and I have spent hundreds of hours, tens of thousands of dollars of my time, of my team, and even of my community. So people who are also archetype aficionados. A year or two ago, we actually took applications for a research team to add even more examples to these courses. So they continually get better over time. And this is just an amazing shortcut to be able to dip in, get what you need, bring it into your brand and implement it immediately instead of being stuck in that spiral of research and inspiration. You get a workbook so that you can implement what you're learning as you go. We've also added professionally designed mood boards. So it can give you ideas on some of the visual decisions of your brand, and to actually see it can be really useful, and full permission to like take and use those and implement them in your brand. There's a few for each of the archetypes. One of my favorite aspects of the course, for each of the 12, there is a different spreadsheet of words that are all on brand specifically for you. I literally use these word banks every single time that I work with a client these days. So every time I'm naming something, every time I'm editing copy, I will leverage these word banks to help me make sure that I'm hitting the right emotional cues with the words that I'm choosing to use. So all of this, like I said, this hundreds of hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours of manpower, all of the resources that have been professionally curated for you is over $1,188 value, and has been taken by thousands of entrepreneurs with rave reviews and results. I have just like screens and screens of these, but we'll leave it at this for now because I need to get to my exciting news. So if you buy right now, before the 21st of December, you're going to get a couple additional benefits that you don't typically get. First of all, you get to pick your second archetype and you get that course completely for free. So pay for your primary and then you get your secondary for free. You get everything that I just talked about. And then we have some really exciting bonuses as well. So you get a formula to write your about page. This is probably one of the hardest tasks for any entrepreneur, to talk about themselves. So I give you my formula for doing that. You get the create your mindset, which we've already mentioned. It's about a 1 hour workshop about how to turn up the volume on your personality, on the way that you're showing up and the way that you feel about yourself and your business, so that you get out of your own way. We talk about how you can leverage video for your specific archetype. We talk about blending archetypes. So how do you take your primary and your secondary and bring them together and make it all work and be cohesive? I explain the answer to that question in depth in that bonus. We have photo and video training. So how do you craft brand photos or a video set that is on brand for you? How do you write in the voice of your brand? That's the question that we answer in the typewriter workshop. And then we have type-based marketing. How do you shift your marketing strategy so it feels really good and it's reinforcing these emotional cues and themes that the rest of your brand is now aligned with. And then again, we keep adding to these incredible courses, and this special enrollment period is no different. Next Thursday, which is why there's the deadline, on noon Eastern, I'm going to host a brand new workshop. One of the most common questions I've been getting recently is, how do I use my archetype in my social media marketing? So when I'm showing up on Instagram, when I'm showing up on YouTube or Facebook, how do I make sure that I'm staying in alignment with my archetype in that platform? How can I kind of like mold my strategy so I'm not just listening to the best practices that everybody says that I have to do, and do this in my own way? So Thursday is going to be a live workshop. There'll be a Q&A session like after and during that workshop. And everybody who's purchased an archetype course in the past is invited to it. And then everybody who joins during the special enrollment period will also get this incredible bonus. I'm so excited to share this content. And then one other new thing that we've just added is when you purchase a course, a standalone course, you get 1 month of support and community inside of my Brand Clarity Collective. The collective is my mastermind group. It's the place where I show up several times per month and offer live coaching, live support, live feedback for the people on the calls. So we do 3 calls every single month. You get access to 30 days membership. First call is just open-ended. Bring yourself, bring your questions about strategy, about your archetypes, about implementing it in any way that you're working on, to the monthly mentorship call. Second call is all about getting your work reviewed. So bring your website homepage, bring your logo, bring your photo inspiration for your next photo shoot, and get direct feedback both from myself and the other smart entrepreneurs that are in the community. And then the third call every month is all about a new topic. So I teach kind of similar to this one, but not on archetypes, on new topics every month. This month is all about how to build your email nurture sequence. So when somebody joins your email list, how are you converting them or nurturing them from lead to customer? So we're talking about how to build that step by step with templates this month in the collective. Next month is going to be all about YouTube strategy. So that's some of the stuff that's coming up. When you add in all of the bonuses, the value of this bundle is over $3,729, and it doesn't cost that much. You get everything for just $297 when you join in this special enrollment period. I cannot wait to see more of you in the archetype courses, to see you on the live bonus call next week, and also in the collective for your 30 days of free access. I hope that you'll join me up on this. I hope you'll give yourself a bit of a Christmas gift, holiday gift, and take your brand to the next level, because you've been doing this without support for a while. And if you're here, I hope that you understand, or I hope that I can help you do this faster. I hope that I can help you package up your genius in a way that feels better for you so that you can get more of your work out into the world. Thank you so much for being here. I I loved teaching this workshop, and I will see you on a future YouTube video. Leave your questions in the comments. I'll be returning to this video and answering any questions that pop up. And like I said, I can't wait to see many of you who are serious about improving your brand, getting brand clarity, and figuring this out once and for all as quickly as possible in the brand fluency courses.